Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to City Skylines 2 and welcome back to Linden. In today's video, which just so happens to be sponsored by Paradox Interactive, we are going to be checking out the brand new, as of right now, UK region pack for Cities Skylines 2, which is joining the French pack and the German pack for free on Paradox Mods. Did I mention that it's out right now and there's a link in the video description and also in the pinned comment? If I didn't, I just did. Check it out. We're going to check it out in this video. We're going to have a look at everything that's new. We're going to have a look at building ourselves a little British town that's going to include a little church, a castle, some suburbs, some cul-de-sacs, a pub. There's a lot of pubs and a few other things as well. Stay tuned. Get yourself comfortable. This might be a bit of a long one, and let's get to it. I want to get started today by doing something maybe a little bit controversial. I want to get rid of a bunch of the farms that we built out here so long ago, and I want to start putting together a new little village out here, kind of similar to what we did with Victoria Glen on the other side of the map. But this to me would be the perfect place to build a little UK styled town or village. And I'm kind of thinking that we're going to have to name it from the jump and sort of set out a rough district for this thing. So it is basically going to follow this road, and then I'm just going to go up the highway as much as I possibly can, or what we can call a little regional road in here. We're going to go across as well, and I'm thinking I want to use this space over here for a little something something. So we're going to come right down the side of the river and follow this dirt road around, and then just very, very carefully follow this back. And I'm thinking, just for the hell of it, just in case I decide to build on the other side of this river, we're going to use that little bit of land on that side. We're going to go up to about the edge of that farm and straight across. And Emerson Downs is not a bad name, but I'm kind of thinking that what we're going to be building is going to be called Little Britain, which is the name of a, admittedly, with plenty of hindsight, relatively controversial. Have I spelled that wrong? Isn't it A-I-N? Isn't it Brit? Isn't that? That's almost Brian. You know, I'm ashamed to admit that I had to Google to check that this is in fact how you spell Britain, but I'm now thinking Little Brian is funnier, so I'm going to go with Little Brian for the name of this little town, just because I genuinely think that's funnier. So what we're going to have to do here is go through and bulldoze all of these farms, which are providing a decent amount of agriculture to Linden, which is perhaps going to be a little bit controversial. We are probably going to look to rebuild some of these a little bit later on, but these farms have been around for the longest time. I really don't remember when I put them out here, but I do think getting rid of them is the right call. We can put some back in. Like I said, it's not going to be the end of the world. I'm also going to go through with a relatively large tree brush, and I'm going to take out all of these trees. Now, these are all going to be replaced at some point or another, not exactly, but my goal is to build a little town and then detail it and make it look all good. So unfortunately, getting rid of the trees is going to be a little bit necessary, just so I have a bit more of a canvas. And I'm also thinking I kind of want to keep this road layout as much as I possibly can, simply because it feels realistic to a degree. A lot of old towns anywhere in the world are built off of old trails, right? They're built off of old farmland or whatever it might be. So this just feels appropriate to try and keep as many of these roads as we can. Although in saying that, I do want to go in and I do want to take out this bus stop if that's a little something that we can do there. So we're going to just delete you if I can get my mouse on it, which I totally could. And then if we have a look at our bus lines, again, I don't believe we actually have any coming out here, which is totally fine. So we're just going to get rid of you as well. Now, in terms of roads, I think this little one can go away. And I want to say this one can stay. I think all of these can stay. And we're probably just going to continue straight through is what we're going to do. So we'll go from pretty much anywhere along here and just continue this straight down like so. I'm going to turn off my grid snapping as well so we can get this to line up nicely. We're going to do the same thing over on this side, just run this road straight through, although it does have to go downhill and connect kind of there, which I'm going to be honest, I don't love. Not sure if that's going to look all that good, but we're going to do it anyway and just see how it goes. And yep, that looks about as looks about as good as I thought it was going to be. So let me grab that node. Let me use move it with Control H to level it to, let's say that. Ooh, that's not quite what I was looking for, but okay, we'll level this one as well, which looks a little better. I'm pretty sure I could just sort of slope that even more, but maybe we just undo all of that, and maybe we just get rid of this road and take it somewhere else. Or maybe we just get rid of that road. We connected it down here, which seems fine. In fact, that probably could have been a cul-de-sac or something. We'll put it back. Now, to be fair, this whole space isn't going to stay as a bunch of dirt roads, so we are going to go through and start upgrading some of this to some paved roads with parking and sidewalks and all that stuff. I probably could go, what is that? We probably could go through and build a little custom something with Road Builder. I'm not really feeling like that's necessary for this project. I think we can get away not doing that, basically, is my thinking. So we're going to see if we can avoid using Road Builder for the time being. I might do it eventually, but I think for now, we're going to try our best to get away with not using it. And I think what I'll do for some of these roads that are a little bit more rural, like this one here, is I might just go through and replace it with an alleyway. I think that would work a little better, and I think I can maybe use some decals and a little bit of detailing to make these feel slightly more rural. I think this one can stay dirt just because it's going out to that windmill. And I suppose, assuming the game doesn't freak out, I think it was just auto-saving. I suppose this one is going to get upgraded. This guy as well is going to get upgraded. And then this one as well is going to get upgraded. As for over here, I think we'll do a little stretch of it that gets upgraded to be paved, but then again, we're going to transition into the gravel. And I think this is going to be a good little space for a little British village thing. And I'm really excited to see how it turns out. And I think I'm going to get started with this old cemetery ruin. Now, this, I think, should probably stay where it is. I think that kind of makes sense. But I would like to look, because I'm pretty sure that somewhere in this pack, though I'm going to be completely honest in saying that for the life of me, I do not remember where, but there is an absolutely beautiful UK parish church. This 12th century church acts as the hub of the local community and serves as a cemetery for all the death care needs. It has a cemetery extension to increase the graveyard capacity. It also adds +2 well-being within 300 meters, which I think is fantastic. The only issue is that it doesn't actually fit in here with the ancient cemetery, or the old cemetery ruins. I think it was called an ancient cemetery in Cities Skylines 1. So we are unfortunately going to have to get rid of that, but we can kind of keep the theme going, right? We can have this beautiful UK parish church. I think it looks absolutely fantastic, and I'm very tempted to try and use Move It to just shuffle it around a little bit. Just see if we can get it to look a little bit more fitting in here, which I'm not 100% sure that I can. But I think moving it back from the road just a little bit is a good call. I think going for maybe there is a pretty good call. Maybe just a little further back, right to about, let's see. Can I get this to line up without the map or the camera moving? That, I think, is about as good as we're going to get. We're going to have to smooth this out, obviously, but this is okay. And I do like this, and I do want to expand it. So we have a graveyard expansion for the left side, and we have a graveyard expansion for the right side, both of which I think look absolutely fantastic. I think this looks great for the spot, and it keeps that theme going through here that we had going through here. Now, I do wonder, could I do a little retaining wall here just to let the terrain kind of do its thing? I'm pretty sure we could. I'm pretty sure that's something we can get away with. So if we go into our terrain paint, I'm going to level this out very roughly, and we're going to come back to this a little bit later on for the specifics of the detailing. But for now, we'll just level this all up like so. We'll bring this down a little bit further. And honestly, I think out this way, we're just going to have to do something like this for now. And again, we will play with that a little bit later on. We will design that up a little bit later on. We'll make that look better a little bit later on. So moving away from that for a second, every little UK town or village needs a pub. At least in my experience, it needs a good pub. And something that the UK region pack does that I think is absolutely fantastic is it introduces a lot of signature buildings. Now, what these buildings are doing is very similar to how buildings level up when you zone them, except this time around, it's a bunch of signature buildings. So for example, let's say we build a beautiful two-star country hotel, right? And it looks like this, a beautiful, beautiful building. It looks the part. I've seen buildings like this all over Scotland, where I was somewhat recently, and other parts of the UK when I've visited over the years. It looks fantastic. But let's say that maybe somewhere down the line, this hotel gets renovated a little bit and apparently doesn't work. I should clarify, I'm playing on an early access version of this, of this pack. You know what? Let's say it doesn't go to 3 stars. Let's say, just for the sake of this argument, it go, okay, you know what? We'll use another building for this example. And this building is actually perfect for little Brian. Oh my God, I didn't even know that was a thing. All right, the Heath Pub. Let's say you have this, it's doing good and you think it needs more room. You can place another version of it, which now has some lounges, and then it does very well again. And now it has a terrace. Basically, that's the idea with some of these signature buildings. When they load properly, again, this is an early access version that I'm using, so there are some issues. That is something that I want to put right in the middle of my town. And ideally, it's going to be one that, you know, loads properly. Man, this is what happens. And honestly, I do think the Heath is probably the best bet for here. Given that it says Brian's on the front, I think that's absolutely fantastic. So what we're going to do, and I think actually there's probably a really easy way I could get this to be positioned without needing to use move it. So that's actually what I'm going to do, is I'm just going to very quickly go and upgrade this road, you know, just upgrade the road like this, and then essentially go back to my signature building. I want it to go right there. And then I can just drop that road back down to be a little alleyway, and there we go. It's still not positioned right because I had to move it back on the other side because I'm an idiot. Okay, so something I would like to do with this space is just bring some new surfaces around here, because I think it's going to look a little bit better if we go for something a little bit different. So around the front of this place, I want to see if this overlaps, and it does. I want to say that's kind of the goal. I want to say just some clay. This is like quintessential sort of British downtown. Not as much these days. Usually it's bigger slabs and stuff, but I remember this exact pattern of bricks right up through the middle of my town growing up. And this is, I mean, maybe not in red, more of sort of a darkish kind of color, maybe something more like this, but I'm going to stick with this one because it kind of matches the red going on with this building, and I think we can have some fun with that in just a little bit. But for now, that's about all I want to do with this pub, because there's other things that we need to put into our little town. It's going to need services, it's going to need education, and then once we get all that done, that's when I want to start taking a look at our zoning and the sort. So we have a UK fire station, a small-sized station with a low amount of engines available. This will also reduce the likelihood of fires within buildings around the service area by carrying out regular safety supervision. Can be upgraded with some extra garages and a training facility. Now, this thing is a little bit larger, and I'm kind of thinking UK Village. I don't know if this would be right in the heart of things, so I'm kind of looking at these roads over here. I'm kind of looking at here for whatever reason and thinking like main road into the village. Maybe it's not the worst place in the world to have some kind of little fire service thing. So I'm kind of thinking right about there for our little village fire department. And again, this looks pretty accurate to what I have seen in and around the UK. Upgrades wise, we do have the extra garages there on the left side, and we do have the training facility at the back. I'm going to get both of those because I think it's a pretty good idea. And again, we'll probably do a little bit of smoothing with this terrain just so I can get rid of those slightly sharper cliffs. So let's flatten all of this out just for now. And then maybe we just hit it with a bit of a smoothing brush immediately just to get rid of some of those nasty rock textures that we have going on. And we'll come back to this, we'll detail around it, we'll make it look the part in just a little bit. We're going to do exactly the same thing, getting ourselves a UK police station, which I think is a little bit smaller, which is fine. This, I think, could go slightly more central, but perhaps not on the main road. So maybe what we do with the UK police station is we come in here, we decide where a little alleyway is going to go. And I want to say a little alleyway is going to go right here. And we're going to go 120 meters. And on that little road, we're going to put ourselves a little police station just out the back. About there, I think is pretty solid. A little bit lower down, we might again have to do some terrain editing. But this guy is a small local station, which has a number of holding cells and a small pool of police cars, can be upgraded with extra cells and garage facilities for extra police cars. So the garage extension looks like this, which is definitely taking it beyond what I would expect for a little village. And this is the extra cells, kind of also taking it beyond what I'd expect for a little village. It does have a lot of green space around it, which I really appreciate. This does get rid of some of that, not too much of it. I think just for the sake of it, we'll do the upgrades. It does create a cool little courtyard there. I do appreciate that. And I'm thinking, yeah, we might want to just use move it. We'll use the marquee tool. We'll go and just sort of raise all this up, I think, because it's definitely looking a little weird and kind of sunken down there. So that's kind of what we're going for. And again, we'll just hit this with a very quick flattening tool, just like so. And then right around the edges, just smooth it out a little bit. Not looking for perfection here. Really doesn't matter. We're going to be zoning a lot of this land anyway, which is going to make the buildings look a little bit weird. Some of them are wall to wall, some of them aren't, but I think just having that in there seems like a good idea. I also figure we probably want to come through here and just get a nice straight slope on this road. So let's do this, which is definitely a bit of a better slope going on there. I think that's going to be good for us. And again, we'll just hit it with a little bit of smoothing here just so the terrain is playing really nicely with everything we have going on. So the reason I wanted this bit of land for little Brian is because I want to come out here and build a secondary school, which looks like this, or will sort of look like this. I suppose we can just go ahead and place it so you can get an idea of what it looks like. And I can tell you, as someone that went to a UK secondary school, this is so astonishingly accurate. Like, it looks so much like my secondary school. It's kind of creepy and it's kind of weird, but it's really cool, including the indoor sports building and the technology wing, both things that my secondary school had. It's really, really odd. It is. Like, it looks, I mean, the parking's a little, there's a bit more of that, but it's really, really accurate to the secondary school that I went to. And I really appreciate that attention to detail. I think it looks absolutely fantastic. Now, what we are going to have to do is move this a little bit, and I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to do this because I don't want to mess with the asset itself too much, but I'm thinking we go here. I'm thinking we lower it to the height of that road, or maybe increase it to the height of this other road. I don't know which is the right option to do here. Maybe increasing it and then moving this road back a little bit would be the way to go. We're also going to have to sort of go left and around it a little bit, which we should be able to do easily enough. I'm thinking anyway. So we'll bring this road back. We'll go and get ourselves a little highway road. We want the 2-lane highway. We're going to turn off our guidelines, and I'm just going to try my best to freeform this a little bit. So we're going to come out like this and up this way, which is going to have a little bit of an incline. And then if I turn guidelines on, we can sort of just do this and run straight to that intersection, which might not be the worst idea in the world, especially with straight slopes on. It's not too bad. Now, my only concern with this is that it does have to be on a road with zoning, and that's going to be slightly tricky, but not impossible to deal with. I think we'll move it back a little further, and I'm going to just try and straighten it up with the corners that we're dealing with just a little bit. And I suppose what I can do if we move this road out a little bit is I can get myself a little road with zoning on it just right across the front, and that might just be the way to go here. So let me level the terrain. We'll start by doing that because I think that's the smart play. So we'll level all of this out, which is going to be messing with some of the hills and all that stuff we have around here. But again, we're going to be redoing a fair chunk of that anyway. And I'm just going to bring this road across, which stops it from complaining. And then for this little road's connection, I'm kind of thinking we just run it straight to here. And I think that's okay. I mean, yes, it's sloping up, but honestly, that's not too bad. That kind of works. I do want to put some parking in there, and I do want to try and mess around with these slopes a little bit, but I don't mind that. The only thing I'm concerned about is this little forestry industry. So we're going to have to go through and just get rid of some of these nodes and really, really shrink this industry right down a bit, because it's going to have to, well, it's going to have to conform is what it's going to have to do. So I think what we'll do to make that happen is we'll go in here, we'll bring ourselves a little gravel road down, something like this. So a nice kind of straight line to about there. I'm going to put a little node right about there and bulldoze all of this section road we don't want. And then very, very simply, we'll go through and we are just going to try our best to get this to line up in a way that kind of works. And I think that's okay. I mean, yes, it's a smaller space, but it's kind of going to have to be. That's kind of just something we're going to have to deal with here. Okay, so getting this exactly how I wanted it to be took a little bit longer than it should have, but this is what I'm thinking for our secondary school. I did add a soccer field next to it because this one in here is a fair bit smaller than the one we're dealing with here. And I figure this one has some stands that look pretty cool. We can maybe change the color of those. I think, I'm not 100% sure if that's the thing I can do. And I added some extra parking back here because I figured, why not, basically? A little bit of parking never hurt anybody. There is also a pedestrian path going around the entire thing just to act as a bit of a barrier. I've put a key wall on the outside of it as well, so if the terrain does dip down, everything stays nice and level, which is something I think is going to be kind of important because we are going to go through here and just most likely hit a lot more of this with a bit of a smoothing brush, just ever so slightly, which is absolutely going to lower that terrain just a little bit, but that's okay. I think we'll go in here and put some rocks down at some point. We'll do obviously a bunch of trees as well, but that's going to be our UK secondary school for Little Brian, which I am pretty sure, yeah, it's going to need a little bit of an extension to its district there. So let's go ahead and get that going just around this new section of highway. We're going to bring it right down to here, and it's going to go right down to here as well. I did have to do some work with extending this little dirt road so it goes a little bit higher, but I think for the most part, it's kind of worked out. I think we can hide some crimes in here with some details, with some rocks and all that good stuff in just a little bit. Now, another signature building that I would like to add to the little village center is this guy right here, UK Mixed Suburban Shops. It is going to look like this right here. And again, it's another example of something that just looks the part. This looks so similar to so many of the shops that you will see around the UK, including pane in the glass. That is an amazing pun. Hairport, pretty good as well. Not gonna lie, kind of a big fan of that one. But pane in the glass might be, that's really good. That's really, really good. I also love the little sort of gravel going back here to all of this parking space. I think it looks fantastic. And then we have different yards back here for pallets, and then we have a little bit of space back here for a bunch more pallets. We've also got space for apartments up above, which I think is a really cool way of doing it. The entrance for the apartments is at the back of the building up these stairs. I love how this looks. It's such a cool looking space. And I think what I'm going to do is actually move the police station to be on the other side. So it's kind of right up against this, which I realize would be a little bit loud, but that kind of makes sense for what's going on here. I think that kind of works out. And I'm also thinking I might just do another little alleyway that goes out and around all of this just to sort of enclose it, because we do have these walls around everything here, and I do think that kind of makes sense. And then again, we're going to go in with move it, and I'm just going to say level all of this to that height right there, just so the road is more or less nice and level, so the walls aren't dipping down. There's nothing weird going on. And I think that's pretty solid. I like this. We can also put a bunch of buildings around it at some point. We do have maxed out demand for most things right now. The reason for that is I installed a mod, I believe, called Demand Master Pro, which lets me adjust a bunch of the, I suppose, criteria for demand in a city. The reason I did that is because Linden it's doing okay, but it doesn't have enough demand for me to show off these region packs in a way that's satisfying for me. So yeah, we're going to have Demand Master Pro while I'm showing these off. If we ever do come back to Linden for something that's not showing one of these off, I will turn it off again and it will be fine. I've tested it. Just for today, we're running Demand Master Pro. So something else that happens to be present in the UK region pack is this, a little petrol station signature building. So I figure we're going to put a little medium petrol station just at the edge of our town right about there. And I think we're going to do a little small petrol station. I want to say in here is almost the best place for it. So let's go right about, you know what, let's do the, no, I can't do the medium one again. It's a signature building. Let's do the, what way do I want to do this? I think we do the small one there. Just right on that corner, just a teeny tiny little petrol station just out in the middle of nowhere. I think that looks fantastic. I think it's a great spot for it. So that is where it's going to live. Yeah, I like that a lot. So you get one going into the village one way, you get one the other way. That's solid. That's what we're looking for. Now, something else I'd like to do out here is just get a little bus station, because I think I might connect this little town to the region as well as Linden itself. So a little something like this, I think right in the middle of that road is going to look the part. And I'm going to level this out as well so it's the same height as everything across the way. And I think that's okay. I think we can get away with that. And I think what I can also do is maybe just put a little bit of a path around this so that I can get, oh, I really don't like when the game does that with the surfaces, but we can make that work by just sort of extending this one out a little bit like that. We'll just have a double path there for some reason. We'll select all of this, level it to the height of the building, and I just want to put a key wall around that just so it kind of looks enclosed. That's kind of what I'm going for. So just that kind of thing there. So when the terrain gets messed with, this is still going to be relatively level looking, and that's kind of what I want. And I think honestly, since we don't have any bus lines that come out here directly, and we definitely used to when this used to be farmland, I think what we do is we just use these three little stops that we have. We have one from, say, here that goes directly into Linden. We do have this bus stop here, which might be a really good place for it. We do still have some free platforms available. It is very tempting to go up here, though, up to the new historic train station. But I think the bus stop kind of makes the most sense. So we're going to come in here, and we are just going to go all the way back to Little Brian, right about there. And that seems solid. This middle one is going to go out to the region on this side of things. So the game is auto-saving again. So it's going out to Starford, which is totally fine by me. A little bus connection out to Starford seems fantastic. And then this little guy, I suppose, I mean, it's going to get up on the highway. It could go out that way towards Haddon. It could go that way towards Ormsby. I want to say Ormsby. That sounds like a little British town to me. So it's going to go out this way to Ormsby, and it's going to come all the way back to Little Brian, just like that. Now I'm probably going to want to, I probably want to name those, right? I probably want to have a little look and see what we can do with the naming of these guys. 22 bus lines is pretty significant, but my last three, I'm going to say, so what, we've got 9 up to 19. So we'll say 20. And it's going to be Little Brian, Little Brian to, oh man, what was it? It was Little Brian to, I guess, Linden or Linden. Lindon is a town in, or a settlement in The Lord of the Rings, I recently discovered. So that was news to me. So Little Brian to Linden, then it was Little Brian to Starford, and then it was Little Brian to Ormsby. and that should be fine. And I might change them to be like, I don't know, green, just to be a bit different, since it's like the little village bus line. I don't know if that makes sense, but we're gonna go for that. And I also just want to check, can I change the models to anything interesting? I could go for coaches. Do we want to do a coach that goes out here? I think I do. And this is the Linden line. We're going to bring that down to 5 vehicles because we do not need more than that, I can guarantee. And we're going to do the same thing for, oh, these are all line 20. Let me just rename you to 21 and rename you to 22, even though I did them the other direction. It's totally fine. You are also a coach. Interesting. Did I sort of mess up my selections here? So Little Brian to Linden is also a coach. Okay, maybe I didn't. I don't think well, you know what? I do want these guys to be coaches, but I don't want too many vehicles on these lines. So Ormsby has been reduced, and then Starford needs to be reduced as well, down to 3 vehicles. That seems totally fine. Still probably way too many, but we can make that work. And I think this little square here, my thinking was we put a little plaza or a small park in here. I like this one a lot. This one's a little bit too big. I think this is kind of perfect. And I think what we can do, of course, is go in and just adjust the surface so it extends right out to the corners of this square. Am I going to put a fence around it? Are we going to do that again? My usual little thing of putting fences around parks and then complaining that Colossal Order put fences around their parks. I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna do that. I might be so bold as to take out the benches on those corners and just continue this straight through, or maybe just do this. That could be an idea as well. Does this totally mess things up? It kind of doesn't. I don't want to do a crossing right where the buses have to go in though. That seems a little bit odd. And you know what? I've decided I'm not going to do a fence. I'm going to do a hedge because that's technically totally different. And I think it'll just look pretty decent if we have a little hedge around this, this little park. It can go up to about there. And honestly, I think that's about all I'm looking for. I do want to put some trees around this, which I could leave until later, but I think just since we're here, I'll do a couple of young little birch trees, maybe 1 and 2. We'll do 3. And we'll do 4. And I think that's probably more than enough. This little middle section, I'm kind of tempted to do some flowers. I think a little something in here would be kind of nice. So maybe that is exactly what we do. We'll go through here with some little purpley flowers, since we don't have a purple tree in City Skylines 2, at least not yet. And I think that looks okay. That should do the job for a little, I don't know, that might be slightly nicer for a little village center kind of thing opposite this building than it should be, but I think it's good. It gives us some access. It gives us some public transport. That's what we're looking for. That's what we want. So that's what we're getting. Now, something I'd like to put out here that's going to be slightly off theme is a little post office. Every good little British town has a little post office. And in this case, we are going to need to change it to be kind of a nice sort of dark, slightly desaturated red brick on the outside there. Very kind of Royal Mail looking, I guess, is kind of what we're going for there. It doesn't look anything like a Royal Mail building. It also really doesn't look like the type of post office you would really see in a little village, but it's all we got. It's really all we got. And I'm also going to put a little hedge around this because I do think it should be slightly enclosed, just like that. I think that kind of works. It just plants it as its own little thing. It's a little bit of land that was bought up and turned into a post office. I think that's totally fine. And I think we're getting very close to the point where I'm kind of going to have no choice but to start putting in some zoning, and there's a decent amount of it. There really is. So for the UK pack here, you have UK low density detached housing. You have UK medium density semi-detached housing. You have medium density terraced housing, mixed housing, medium density housing, and high density housing. You have a lot of options for your UK zoning, and that to me is super exciting and something I'm super excited to play around with. And from what I can tell, some of those buildings are really, really small as well. So I'm actually going to put a road here because I do think that's going to make some sense. And I'm kind of thinking I might just be a little bit cheeky and bring a little something something across here. Now, can I use a continuous curve tool to make this happen? I am pretty sure that I can. I kind of want to go over there. I don't know if I want that to be the connection though. You know, I think I do. I think that's fine. This section of road though is going to have to be redrawn because I'd like it to just, I'd like it to stay level with that building, and then if it has to dip down, it has to dip down there. And that looks all right to me. It is going to mess up my zoning just a little bit on this side. Not really super worried about it. And obviously down here, it isn't going to play all that nicely either. But this should, if we now go in and play a little bit with mixed housing, for example, or rather terraced housing, we should get some corner buildings on this. In saying that, I don't know if I want to put terraced housing right in the middle of our village. So let's do a little bit of mixed housing there, which isn't going to be a corner building at all. We'll do this as well, and we'll do this. And here's hoping this builds relatively quickly, because in my testing, which was very brief, it didn't. Okay, so I think this is slowly starting to come together. You might be wondering about this building though. You might be thinking, hold on a minute, that looks a little bit out of place. You're kind of going for this like little UK thing and you have a big gray box in the middle of it. This is actually, oh, also in case you're wondering why all the buildings have advertised here, it's because I placed them by hand. Basically, that's why. This is something that you will see in some towns in and around the UK. This is the type of building that would have come together in, I want to say the 70s or 80s, and it's usually a bank. At least where I grew up, this was what the bank looked like. A lot of the buildings around looked even older than these guys, but this was the bank. And so I figured putting it right in the middle of town as kind of an eyesore tells a little bit of a story. It's also close to the bus station, which I think is important, but I like to imagine that the people of the village actually hate that the bank is right here and that they bought up this land, but for whatever reason, nothing could be done about it. And now there's just a big gray box in the middle of the village. That's what's going on there. Now, when it comes to things like the terraced houses and the like, I think what we're going to do is bring a little road sort of down this way. I want my angle snapping because of course I do, and I want my grid lengths because of course I do. I'm gonna bring this road down to about here. We're gonna bring it straight through, and that seems fine. I think in terms of, well, cul-de-sacs, we can maybe do a little curvy something, say here, which is gonna mess with some of the zoning on this road, but honestly that's fine. And for the rest of it, I'm kind of thinking that I'm not going to go too crazy with it. I'm not going to try and, you know, reinvent the wheel or anything. So we're just going to bring a little road off of here and do a teeny tiny little curve on it going sort of that way. We'll put a roundabout on the end of that. I think this space is probably going to be a lot of trees. And then over this way, I'm kind of thinking that what I might do is actually bring this road back up and in here. So you can kind of go a multitude of ways from here. So let's put a cut on this road right about there. Take that out and bring this guy. Let's see. We'll try and use the complex curve for this. We'll get our guidelines on. Basically, this guy needs to go up to about there and then across. So it's just going to cut straight back up and around. And then this is going to just curve straight over to that road. So it's going to go a little something like that. Maybe a little unnecessary, maybe a little weird, and it kind of does turn this into more of a main road than perhaps we would want it to be. So I'm almost wondering if I should maybe shift that a little bit. I think I will. It's still going to keep this as kind of a main road, but I think I'm going to put it here instead because I think it kind of makes a little bit more sense. A little bit steep, 5.3% gradient. It's actually not that bad looking, to be quite honest with you. And I think we'll also turn it into an actual sort of 2-lane road. So we'll see if we can't maybe just do this. I think that looks all right. We might do some slightly wider sidewalks on it so no one thinks to park there. And I realize parking is something I haven't thought about for a lot of this project, but I think we'll be fine. I think we'll manage. Okay, so after a few more changes, I think we're kind of at the point where I do just want to start zoning this space and not placing things by hand. So what I'd like to do is start with terraced housing because it fits in spaces like this absolutely perfectly. It should fit in here pretty well as well. And it should fit in here as well if we just start going around a whole bunch of this space. I do specifically want to get some terraced housing in these areas because it should give us a nice little corner, and we can also continue the path through here. Same thing with down here. And this little curvy part's kind of annoying me. I'm not too worried about that. I'm also fairly sure that the majority of the terraced housing actually just fills up a tiny little space when it comes to its size here. So we're going to try our best to get this to work and try our best to make this feel a little bit more dense. I would like to try and get something interesting looking in here. I'd also kind of like to see if I can maybe get a nice little curvy thing going on here. I'm not too sure how well this is necessarily going to work, but we're going to try our best to get this to just go up to there. So something kind of like that is a little bit steep, but I think we can make that work. And it should give us a little bit of terraced housing there as well, which should be on a corner. Same thing in here. I want the corner building. I want some buildings there. And I think what we're going to do is just try to get this all to come together really nicely as well. So we'll do something like this. That's very steep looking, but it should be okay. I'm hoping. It's definitely a fair bit of hope going on there. That is, maybe we just do this one the entire way a little bit more freeform. So we'll bring it out, go to there. 9.2. I don't love it, but it's going to be just fine. We'll just extend down to here as well. And that should be all right for terraced housing in there. On this side of things, I'm just going to fill this square and see what happens. And over here, I'm kind of thinking that I want to do like a little park or something nice next to this, the inn or the bar or whatever it is. I'm not too sure what that something nice should be. It could be more mixed housing. It could be some small apartment buildings. I don't know that I want to do that though. It feels like it's maybe a little bit more dense than it should be, but maybe we should take a look at these apartment buildings and just see what they're going to look like. Maybe that's another development in the town that the townspeople themselves aren't going to be thrilled about, but they couldn't really do anything about it. It just got built without really consulting them. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know how these things happen, but we'll do a little apartment building in there, I guess. And then over here, I think we're just going to line this little space with some more terraced housing up to about there and maybe all the way down to about here. We'll do the same thing on this side. We'll get some terrace housing lining this. We'll do the same thing right up to this roundabout because I think that's a good idea. And I'm pretty sure we could go down this way as well. We'll do a little building here. It's going to be a corner building, which is great. We'll get a little bit of an angle there, which is fine. This is apparently a corner building. I'm going to say I disagree with that idea. We're going to let it rebuild. And then we'll come down here a little bit, just like this. We don't want to fill in the entire space. I do want to have a little bit of greenery around here. In fact, maybe these guys aren't going to be terraced houses at all. Maybe what these guys can be is if we go over to UK, we could do some semi-detached housing in here. I think. I don't know if it's going to be, well, I don't know if it's going to fit in that space, to be quite honest with you. But we'll do it anyway. And you know what? We'll just do that entire space as well. In fact, we have no demand for this type of residential. That's why it's going to take a minute to fill out, but that's okay. I think in here what we'll do is a little bit of semi-detached housing, like, you know what? We're going to do this. We're going to do something like that. I don't know what it's going to look like, but we're going to find out together. And then in here, we have all these beautiful corners that we can play with. So I'm going to do a little bit more terraced housing just because I would like it to I'd like it to sort of fill out all this space. I'm thinking down here, we might have some problems with this not filling out properly. That's actually totally fine. And over here, maybe some semi-detached housing. I don't know. We kind of need all of this to build first to get an idea of what it's going to look like before we go and do a bunch more semi-detached housing. But that's kind of what I was thinking these roads could be. Or maybe this should just be a bunch of terraced housing as well. I don't know. Let's get an idea of what this is going to look like first. I'm thinking down here for sure is going to be maybe even just detached housing. So very low density housing down here looking out over the water. Be quite expensive, I'm sure, but I think that's something we can, I think we can swing that. I think that'll be a bit of a good idea. Oh, and would you look at this? They're finally starting to build, and those look incredible. I mean, the fence at the front of this one's needs some work, and the path is about 6 foot below the door, but other than that, it looks really good. These corner ones as well are looking pretty cool. This one, for some reason, is a corner building, despite the fact that it's not on a corner. That's a bit odd, but I mean, we can fix that just by bulldozing it and letting it rebuild. I think we might run into that problem in a few spaces, but I'm not noticing anywhere that that's going to be an issue. This is apparently a corner as well, which is fine. I'm thinking of turning this into like a little cobblestone alleyway, so I'm not super worried about that. We have a bunch more of them popping up out here as well that look absolutely amazing. This little space kind of needs 2 of them to pop up to fill that in properly. This little space needs redone so that develops properly as well. And look at what we've got going on. This, I love this. Absolutely love this. Not seen any of the semi-detached houses yet. They haven't popped up, and neither have any of the lower density detached houses. But this, I love this. It's got such a fun little vibe to it. It's not as detailed as I want it to be yet, but I'm really liking how this is coming together. Okay, so I think it's fair to say that the trees are doing a lot of heavy lifting here. They are definitely hiding the fact that things are spread out a little bit more than maybe they need to be, but I'm kind of happy with how this is looking, although I'm keenly aware that there are a few little points of detail that I still haven't built. For example, the space in front of the Heath pub still hasn't been detailed. That's something we got to do. I need to detail this space back here, and I probably want to fill this space in with some trees as well. A lot of this is just empty land that I don't really have anything to do with. So very quickly, I want to start by doing that. I want to get some trees into this space because I figure it's probably the easiest way just to fill that space. Just a couple of little trees, maybe a little poplar tree or two. And then back here is pretty much the same thing. Now, I've already done this over on the other side. So all of this space has been filled in. We have some detailing around here as well. I'm sure there was a time lapse that just showed me doing a bunch of stuff. I, at this point, don't know what was in that time lapse because I'm still recording it. So that's kind of how that works. I do a lot of that in editing. There's some parts, if there's like a really boring part of the video, it just, like if I'm talking about something and it's really boring, I'm just like, you know what, maybe I'll just speed that up and put some music over it. And usually it ends up looking a lot better. So that's kind of how the time lapses come about. There's sometimes I'll sit down and kind of have an idea that I'm gonna do a time lapse, and then other times I sit down, I'm like, nah, I'm listening to it and that's boring. Let's do a time lapse because that's a better idea. We do need to fill this space in as well. And I figure this is probably one of the easier places to get started with the bit of detailing that we need to do. So what I want to do is basically go way down here with this surface. We want to come down around here as well and down to this road, but we're going to need to go at a little bit of an angle so that it lines up nicely with the door on that building. And then over here, same old story. We're coming around and we're going all the way back to where we started. And it just gives us this, which I like the look of. It's obviously not a road, but I like the look of it. Now I do want to take a second and search in all categories for a pole, because very specifically, I want to get my hands on the dog park pole, which is what I use for bollards pretty much everywhere. So we're going to go from about here. We're going to make sure that randomization is not enabled, and we need to turn off randomized rotations as well. It just needs to be a fixed rotation, and we're going to go from there to there. We'll bring that down to 1 meter spacing, a little something like, I want to say this, and we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Maybe we could pretend that these are those fancy bollards that can raise and lower when needed. So maybe if there's a need for a van to go back here, it can totally do that. But we're never going to be looking at those all that closely. So I'm really not too worried about the fact that they're, you know, just clearly posts and that they don't move. I would like to do a little bit of foot traffic back here. I think that would be kind of a cool idea. So we're just going to sort of cut through here. We're going to cut around this corner. And we're going to let people just walk the entire way over to here if that's a thing that they would like to do. And I'm kind of thinking that this is almost a little bit too clean. I don't really imagine that this place would be all that filthy, to be completely honest. But I do think putting some decals down is probably for the best. So especially in here, like this area is way, way too clean. Now, I don't necessarily know why it would be filthy back here, because we're not necessarily allowing vehicles into this space, but we're going to we'll come up with something. I don't know, maybe it's just not cleaned all that often. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's just old. That's kind of my thinking. Maybe it's just a bunch of old sort of bricks and stones that have been down for a really long time, and they're just old. It's that simple. They're just old. Sometimes that's all it is. It's like me. I'm 31 now. It's that's scary to think about, man. I started this YouTube channel when I was, when did I start this YouTube? I think it was 18 when I started this YouTube channel. I'm 31 now. That's ugh. I don't know how I feel about that. Speaking of not knowing how I feel about things, I don't know how I feel about this dirt. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know if I like it all that much. I think it makes sense, but it almost makes me want to make some of the roads a little dirtier as well, just to sort of blend them all in. I've also just noticed something out of the corner of my eye that really annoys me, which is that the path in this house doesn't connect to the road. Oh, if I start going around and looking at all the, oh, this looks adorable. Oh my God. Never mind this guy. You know what? You can get out of there. In fact, let me just take both of you out of there. Oh, I got rid of that one too. Yeah, let me take both of them out of there and let me just do that. We'll just have one big house there. That seems better. This is adorable. I am in love with this. This is like the perfect little suburb. That's so good. Ah, Absolutely, absolutely in love with this pack. It's so good. This place in general, I really, really do like. This is still, still not sure about this. I'm almost tempted to say, do these places have gates on the back? It doesn't look like they do, does it? This kind of looks like it could be a gate. See, my thinking is if they had gates on the back, which I guess we could imagine that they do, I could do some bins out here. So it's kind of like, you know, the bins are out the back, like these things. I'm kind of thinking I'm gonna, because I think that's the kind of thing that would be back here. So like a couple of bins and a couple of different colors for like all your, you know, you've got your regular bin, you've got your like garden waste, you've got your glass bottles. I think that's what we're gonna do here, is just absolutely fill this place with bins. Not all of them. I think we'll do like a couple of different, I don't know, little layouts. We're not going to do 3 every place, but I'm kind of okay with this. I think it just fills the space, you know? I think it just kind of makes sense. It really does. Oh, that really does bring it together, actually. I think the alleyway is also maybe just a bit too large is kind of the problem that we're having with it, but I like this. What is it? What is a silver bin going to be for? Oh no. Recycling. I mean, no, if it was the UK, that'd be blue. I don't know. I know the bins here, the blue bin here is recycling. I don't know what it is in the rest of the UK. I know the black one is like general waste. The brown one here is garden waste. I only have 3. I've heard of some houses having 4 and 5. So let me know in the comments what kind of bin you got. We'll have some proper bin related banter down in the comments. Yep, that's a thing I've said. Don't think I've ever said that in the channel before in almost 13 years. Oh, you know what's really frustrating about the fact that I just did this? They already exist. The creator of these assets was way ahead of me and has already put the bins in. They've also done a little washing. I really should have paid closer attention. That's kind of, oh, that's disappointing. That's oh, it's got a little welcome mat as well. That's cool. That's a little, you know what? My bins are staying. They're staying. It helps fill out the alleyway a little bit. So they're absolutely staying there. Oh, that's annoying. Maybe we'll do like a big old bin down here. I don't know if we need it, but we're going to do one there. We're going to do one there, and we'll do here and here. And you know what else I think is going to bring this space together? A little bit of graffiti. I think that's going to help. So we'll get Algernon up on this wall, because that seems like a great idea. We'll get TDW up on, I want to say this wall, because that also seems like a great idea. And that's starting to really bring this together. I hate to admit, but it's starting to sort of sell the effect that maybe this alleyway isn't one you want to walk down late at night. I don't, you're gonna get jumped by a bunch of City Skylines modders if you do. Now, before we head up to that one pub that we need to deal with, I want to deal with the space in front of the church, because I kind of looked at this and had an idea, which is that I'm just going to extend this little gravel texture right out to the edge of the road, since we don't actually have it going out there currently. And I think that's probably about all I'm going to do with this. I don't think we need to go too much further than just bringing it out and kind of, oh, that's okay. Well, that's depressing. I don't think we need to go too much further than just bringing it out like this and sort of making it look like, you know, that's a little extension of the church. I think that's kind of okay. I am tempted to kind of go around it and do a little more with the trees, but I might be overdoing it if I do. Maybe I should, though. Maybe this is a place that should be a little bit more dense with trees around here, so that we're kind of, you know, creating that natural sound barrier. So we'll go a little bit more dense with this in a few spots. We'll just use the oak trees, because they very quickly became my favorite and remain my favorite tree in the game so far. This alder tree is very close to taking over, though. I'm really, really enjoying working with it lately. I think I'll take these trees out, though, so you kind of have a view of the water from certain parts of this place. I think that's kind of important. And I think we can go in with just a few birch trees in a few spots around here as well, just to really bring this all together, make it a little bit more dense. And that's kind of what I'm looking for. And honestly, that is about all I'm looking for when it comes to that church. Although, if we're being accurate to some of the churches near where I live, we probably wouldn't have parking on both sides of the road. We would probably just have it on the side with the church itself, and that seems fine to me. I also realize that there's only so much roadside parking in this place. Everyone else is going to have to hopefully park. Well, I was going to say they're going to have to park on their property, which, to my knowledge, I don't think Sims actually do in Cities Skylines 2. I think they did in Cities 1. I don't remember, but I for sure know that they aren't going to be parking next to their terraced houses because there's not the room for it. So it turns out just while we're here, there are a bunch of new UK props in Cities Skylines 2 now, which include UK wheelie bins. You've got a 120 liter version, you've got a 240 liter version, and a 660 liter version if you happen to want to use them, which I probably should have, but I didn't. We've also got a bunch of metal railings. There's a bunch of wall pieces as well. These aren't networks, unfortunately, so they won't network together the way some of my other walls did, but these would have been really cool if I'd noticed them a while ago. I might spend some time, it won't be in this episode, but I might spend some time between episodes going around and replacing certain little things here and there, because we have little garden rooms, we have little sheds, we have little gates as well. There's a lot of really cool UK assets in here. There's also, I believe, we have a shopping trolley as well. Now, if you'll excuse me, I want to clean these up. And then, as is UK tradition, I do need to take this shopping trolley and I do need to place it just, well, there, basically, just in the water, just in the river. And then I suppose something I would like to do is come into this space and I want to start placing these dog park poles just around the front of my pub, because it's about time that we start detailing this little space. So they're going to go out to about there, and then I want these to run the entire length of the street. So right down to this corner is about perfect. And then from here, we're going to go right down to about, I want to say there. And those will act as bollards that surround that space, stops traffic from flowing in there. That's kind of what we're looking for. Now, I do wonder, we have got some flagpoles in here. Is it at all possible? I don't remember if there is a UK flag in here. The Finnish one obviously makes sense, and the Paradox one makes sense as well. I don't know where I would put any of these, I'm going to be honest with you. And looking at it, I would have to align them to flagpoles, which seems like an absolute nightmare. So we're not even going to try and do that. I think what I will try and do is get some potted plants around here. I think that seems like a really cool idea. I do like these flower pots, so I think we go with these guys, and I think I'm going to randomize the appearance of them as well. We're going to start right on this corner, and we're going to go down here. We'll go maybe 11 meters on this, maybe a little something shorter, maybe something like 6 meters for these guys. And we're going to go right down to where the bollards happen to be. And I'm going to demolish the one on the bollard so they're all spaced nice and evenly. And then from here, we're going to do exactly the same thing. That's not what I wanted at all. We want to get the line tool and do exactly the same thing. We're going to go right down to where the bollards are. And we're going to delete the one on the bollard. And we're going to delete the one at the start. And that gives us a little bit of color around here, which I think is kind of important. Now, looking at this place, it has a bunch of benches out back, but this kind of place to me would absolutely have some benches out front as well. So have a look at commercial. We have some options, which is not too bad. I feel like this is the one we would probably go for out front of a place like this. I think that's what I'm going to go for as well. So we'll do a little bench table set here, a little table set here, and we'll do a little table set maybe a little bit further out, something like this. And maybe that's enough for that side. We'll do a few more on this side. I don't know if they'd be this spaced out, but we can have them spaced out this month. Yeah, that looks good. I think that works. Are there any parasols that I can put over it though? That's the main question. And also, oh, would this one be better? No, I like this. I like the wood. I think that's the way to go. This is a little cheap looking, this one. Ah, now this is what I'm thinking. We've got some parasols that we could play with here. I don't know that I want to put them over every table, but I think over some of them might be a good idea. Maybe just over 2 of them so that we aren't completely covering the facade of the building. Maybe just 2 of those in red. Since the crest of the building is red as well, I think that kind of works. I definitely don't mind that. I think it's kind of cool. And then out front, I'm kind of wondering, do we want to do a little bit more decoration with things like potted plants? Do we maybe want to play around with some planters instead of bollards? That's not a bad idea. I'm glad I thought of that one. Good job, me. Honestly, even just the one planter on the corner is kind of cool looking. I don't know if I want to line this entire place with them, but I do really like the idea. I'd be lying if I said I didn't, and I don't know why I'd lie about that sort of thing. It'd be very out of character for me, but I really enjoy this idea. Now, if I was to start here and drag these out, could I do something kind of interesting here? If I do this, we can delete this one, and I'm going to try the same thing on the other side. So we want to get it sort of in the middle of the planter. From there, that's not what I wanted. I want the line tool. We want to go from about there. We're going to drag it out right down to this corner, which is exactly what we're looking for. And then basically, somehow, if the posts are, well, would it be worth going and redoing the posts now is the question that I've got. I can delete these ones because I can kind of see them. I can delete these guys because I can kind of see them. I'm thinking it might be worth going and just redoing the posts so that they're spaced evenly between the planters. At the same time, I don't know if it's that deep. I don't know if it really matters that much. I don't know if we're ever going to look at this space this closely ever again. I do, however, think the planters were a really good shout. Really, really happy with those. All right, so with this detailed, or at least as detailed as I think it needs to be, including some invisible pedestrian paths that have people walking very slowly in front of Brian's, I think it's about time that we go in here and get ourselves 1 or 2 more bus lines, and I think one of those lines can go out to here, which is a little something that I just built very, very quickly. This is Morrissey's supermarket, obviously somewhere around the ballpark of Morrison's supermarket that we might be familiar with in the UK. It's another asset that comes with this pack. I decided to put a couple of large parking lots in front of it just to extend the amount of parking that could be here. This might be a bit much. In fact, I'd be quite confident in saying it probably is a little bit much, but I also happen to get a UK large petrol station next to it as well, with a little bit of detailing, of course, just to hide some crimes. And I figure we could send some buses out here. I think that could be kind of interesting to do. So what I think we're going to do is we're going to go around here. We're going to get some EU bus stop shelters. And I think what we'll do is get a little bus stop right about here. I think we're going to need anarchy to make this work. So a little bus stop, maybe we don't block that entire thing. Maybe, you know what? Maybe we just use signs. I think a little bus stop sign is what we're going to go for. So right about there on the main street is going to be one of our buses. Another one is going to stop. I don't know if these guys will be happy about it stopping in front of their house or not, but it's going to stop right there. So it's going to go up and around. And then I think I'm going to bring it up to just in front of the fire station. I don't think that's necessary. These might be a little bit close together, to be completely honest with you, but I'm kind of going to allow it. We're going to come down into the neighborhood. We are going to go Well, if we go down here, this actually can loop around. So I think that's actually what we're going to do is we're going to have it stop in front of, let's say these houses right here. So it'll come down. It can go out onto this road. Honestly, this one I think could go out to the school as well. So maybe we'll have it go to, I've just realized that is the only way into the school grounds. Interesting. Let's have it stop, say there. We could probably shrink that sidewalk down, but that'll be all right. And then I suppose it could continue out to Morrissey's and we'll have it stop. I'm pretty sure this is the front of it. So we'll have it stop over, I want to say here is probably fair enough. So right about there for another bus stop. It's going to come all the way back. It's not going to go to the school because I think that's unnecessary. It could stop in front of the church, but I think instead I'm going to have it stop in this little bit of land right here. Just, you know what? It's going to stop just to the side of that person's driveway, which I'm sure is going to drive them absolutely nuts, but they'll manage. And looking at this, I think we can get away with not having a stop there. It can just go to the station. In fact, yeah, it can go to the, do I want it to go to the station? You know what? I don't think I do, actually. I think what we'll do, just to avoid putting too many vehicles into that station, is we'll have it go right there instead. And we'll just get this looping around really, really quickly. So it's going to obviously go to all of those new stops and hopefully it's going to be a good thing. Although it seems like I've ever so slightly messed up my, my bus line here. Why does it not want to go around? Oh, it just seems to be taking a second to calculate exactly what it is I want it to do, which is interesting to say the least. I'd like it to come down here, which it again took a second to figure out. That's slightly concerning is how I'm going to describe that. Definitely slightly concerning that the game is now taking a while to figure all that out. So I'm going to be honest with you. I was about to wrap things up and then I got thinking about one last thing that we could add to little Brian. And to add that thing, we're going to take out a little bit of the work that we did in this space with the trees. It's not like we did a lot of work here. It was all the tree brush that did the heavy lifting, but I want to take all this out and I'm going to take out these paths as well. Now I like these. I think it's important to have that pedestrian access, but there's something we could put in here that I think is going to make little Brian just feel a little bit more important. And that's something that I want this little place to be. I want it to feel a little bit more important. I want it to have reason to be here. Obviously, it might have once been a little farming town or something like that, but I had a thought about things that I have seen in many a little British town, and I got thinking about some castle ruins. I feel like some castle ruins would be amazing. Now, there is a full medieval castle. This thing is huge. I didn't know this existed. I'm going to be honest. I had no idea. We're not going to be placing this. It's way too big at this stage of the game. I'd have to restart this entire build, and I'm not willing to do that. I am willing to put this in here, though, because I think a little ruined medieval castle on this little hill, I think that's kind of cool. I really do. I like that a lot. Now, what I'm going to try and do here is try and keep some of this hill, because I think it would be good if this thing was sort of, well, up on the hill. I think that's kind of where it should be. So I'm going to have it sort of here, kind of looking out towards the river a little bit, something kind of like that. And what I would like to do is have this path sort of come down and just hug that hill as best I possibly can. So we'll keep our angles on and we're going to try, I guess we'll turn the angles off now. We're going to try to hug the base of this hill, just a little something like this. We'll go down to this road because I think that's okay. So down to about there. And this guy is going to connect to our path. We can have angle snapping on just to get this to line up nicely like that. And then on this side, I kind of want to do the same thing. So this is relatively flat here because it's the back side of the castle. I'm okay with just this existing. This, by the way, isn't going to have, I'm not doing retaining walls. That's not my plan here. I just want these paths to kind of, I just want them to hug the hill. I'm not really too sure why, in all honesty. I just kind of want them to. So this is going to come up here this is going to hug right up to about there and go to, hopefully, if I can get this right about here somewhere. Might need to turn off angle snapping, but I want it to just go sort of like that. And then you can kind of walk down, go around the castle. You can come down here, which I think is important. And some way, somehow, we're going to make all of this work. So that's going to go here. You are going to go right about there, so you can kind of loop around it. And then I do think having a little connection up here would be good as well, but I don't know if we're going to necessarily do that. I think what I'd like to do is I'd like to place some trees. I'd like to place some rocks. I'd like to place what sort of looks like a little bit of rubble here and there, which would need anarchy. Actually, I think placing rubble is going to take forever. So maybe what I'll do instead is just place some little rocks kind of at the base of these hills. Although if I do this, man, if I do this manually, it is going to take forever. And I don't know, don't know that I'm prepared to have this take forever. I've got to be honest with you. I don't think I am prepared for this to take forever. What I will do is put a rock, maybe not that rock, but I will put a rock in the middle of this little triangle. I think this one's pretty good. And then I'm going to put some plants around it, so it just looks a little overgrown, maybe. Just like there's a little something going on there. Maybe a little bit of something a bit lighter in a few spots. Maybe one of these guys kind of there. I don't know. I don't know why I'm putting a rock in the middle of the path, but I think it looks cool. And then for the path itself, I can probably hit some parts of this with a smoothing brush, but man, I don't know that I'm prepared to do that. That might be a bit much. I guess I could keep anarchy off and then just hope for the best in terms of the placement. And I think that's actually, you know what? That's actually okay. We'll need to take some of these out, but I think that combined with maybe a tree brush will look okay. And there we go. We have our castle ruins. We have some surfaces underneath it. We have some trees around it. And I did decide to get rid of the rocks that were on the cliff face because it just looked kind of terrible. I'm going to be honest. It did not look good. And you know, I think that is going to do us for today. This ran on a little bit longer than I was expecting it to, but I like to think that we've sort of had a good look at everything that's available, at least most of what's available, at least a good chunk of what's available in the UK region pack for Cities Skylines 2. As a reminder, everything that I've built with today is available for free on Paradox Mods. It is accessible in-game. You can go get it in your browser. It's all there for free as a part of the UK region pack for Cities Skylines 2. There is, of course, the French and German packs that came before, and there are a few more region packs that are on the way, all of which will be free via Paradox Mods for Cities Skylines 2. A huge thank you goes out to Paradox Interactive for sponsoring this video. And like I said, that is going to be it. So another huge thank you goes out to all of you for watching this video. It has been an absolute pleasure as always. And as always, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.